Well, welcome back to a new episode of the Win More, Live Better podcast. And as those who've been following the show kind of from the beginning, you know that I try to bring you some of the brightest minds that I can find in coaching and leadership and high performance and bring them together to talk about not only those topics, but things like culture, mindset, and everything in between. And today's guest has been on my radar for a while. I was really excited to bring in Coach Mitch Canham, the head baseball coach at Oregon State University. This is the second person I've had the fortune of going back to Corvallis to be able to have a conversation with on this show. As some of you may know, I had Scott Ruick on it last summer, but without it was just a no brainer for me to bring in Mitch, given all the things that he's accomplished, not only as an athlete but also now as he stepped into coaching. So, Mitch, I just want to start off by saying how appreciative of I am of your time today.
Well, I thank you for having me, and I am excited for our conversation. And really, as you say, some of those things about having great people. I think of all the guys on my staff and all the mentors I've had over my life. That I was like, you should probably be interviewing them a lot more than me, because anything that I have or give has a lot to do with just that, the people that I'm surrounded by each and every day, whether it's in person or through spirit. So I can give you plenty of phone numbers of the right people to call.
I'm always quick to say, like, success is not a solo journey. There's obviously going to be a lot of mentors and guides that you've had, and which we'll get into here in a bit. And where I think there's some uniqueness though to your story that I would love to maybe start with is you are obviously an integral member of Oregon State's championship runs as a player, going back to 2006 and 2007. And it's kind of become, I'm sure, in a lot of ways, full circle for you to now be at the helm and succeeding Coach Pat Casey in the program, and now kind of putting your own fingerprint on it. But where I'd actually like to go is like when you going back a little bit now to those championship runs in terms of like mindset, leadership, culture. What maybe were some things that those runs maybe taught you that you feel like still kind of influence now your leadership and how you lead the program?
Well, a huge piece of where I am now, if not all, and where I will be in the future, has to do with uh, the coaching staff, the athletic department, the professors on campus, the people in this community that transform every bit of me when I was here. And honestly, when I started getting into coaching, one of the first calls I made was to Pat Casey, Dan Spencer, uh, and then I started going, man, I need to learn from every coach that I've been with. So I went back and called my little league coaches, eh, Ed Hastings, Mike McCarty, high school coaches, Ken Collins, Brent Barnes, Michael Hodgins, Roger Anderson, Brandon Schmitten, and then I started calling guys that I played for professionally, and I was the tree just continued to go of all these people that have influenced me. Talking with my dad, my siblings, my wife, and just trying to continue to develop what this thing really looks like, and pouring into it with everything that you have. And some of the things, if I want to call a staff meeting, I just tell the guys that Coach Casey's going to be here, and they're all there early. They're all like leaning on their chairs, just waiting for anything and everything that comes out of his mouth, his body language, and there's just so much wisdom there. And I think a lot of it is driven. All of it is driven by the faith that we have. I mean, you talk to Coach Case, and he goes to mass, if not every day, most every day. The amount of time we spend in prayer, just talking with our new football coach, and how our faith is just so incredibly strong. Um, and I have so many good things to say just about all the people around me. I'm very fortunate for that, but I also think about where you know wisdom comes from, and it is in the good book, and it is also really observing everyone around you. And who are the people that we go home and see each and every day? Our wife and our kids. And so some of the strongest people, the decisions that you make are based on just that, the most influential person that you have in your life. And I know, um, when we talk about blue collar hard work, being very honest with one another, one thing that Case expressed to us and reiterated again the other day with me, as I still see him quite often, you know, honesty. If you're talking about building strong relationships, which is something that this place has always been really about, is you have to start it off with honesty. And then from honesty, you build trust. And from trust, you can communicate. And from communication, you then build relationships. And him saying that again, I'm like, yeah, man, it's so true. And it goes from bottom up and it goes from top down. It all like, those are four big things that you have to have. And I think that were delivered to us throughout those years in college, how tight each and every one of us were. I actually just sent out a text. This is our, you think about how quick time flies, our 20-year anniversary of winning the '06 national championship is going to be during this season. And so I sent out a text to all the guys that were on that team. And still funny, like you start that kind of text thread, get ready for the storytelling that's going to happen on it, the phone calls. And it brings back a ton of great memories. It reminds you of the foundation that was built, those things, um, from not just the coaching staff, the players, the athletic trainers, the strength coaches, all these things really molded us to the men that we are today. And I know contacting any of those guys, you see how they are successful at home, they're successful in the workplace, and because Case taught us a lot of those things that we still carry on today. And so it's not uncommon. You know, I remember when I first met Case and Spence here at the field. And I remember Case was out tamping home plate wearing what were at once white Nike shoes, but they were definitely brown and clayed up, dirt up from being out there working. And you're like, man, the head coach is doing this kind of stuff. And it still plays into what we do right now. Our coaching staff, you know, it's not uncommon to see us washing windows, taking out the trash, you know, taking care of stuff around the facility or around campus, or how we are also very involved in our community and philanthropists because of those around us that showed us that giving, not just, you know, whether it's your finances, your time, your passion to others, is extremely important. And I think that's what drew all of us as coaches back to this place. It is what has drawn us to be um, in that coaching realm, is serving others. And there's something that I remember, it's been in my, right here in my top drawer, that has been there since the day I got this job, and was actually built um, around 2010 when I started my first company. It was the MVPs, mission, value, purpose, and slogan, and figuring out what those things were. And it kind of, not necessarily who you are now, but who do you want to be? And I noticed that nothing on there had anything to do about material things. You know, my slogan is serve God and honoring Him. And so, funny how each of these things are developed um, around my MVPs. And I've shared that with other guys as well. Hey, what are you going to do in life? Fill this sheet out, and it's going to drive you. And you can accomplish that in many different arenas. But again, reflection, honesty, these are all things that we learn when we're here. Um, Being able to work through difficult times, and I've brought many Bible verses up that help drive us. But um, you know, it's the idea of fear not, and accept challenge, and go out and achieve at the highest level possible. It's even in my strength coach's whiteboard out in center field. It doesn't it doesn't say like hard. Everything is a challenge. This is going to be hard. No, this is a challenge. Let's accept it. Let's pursue it. Let's use our resources. Let's bring other people along the journey with us. They're going to keep us on the road. So it's just been something that shaped each and every one of us from day one.
I love the intentionality of that. Like, first and foremost, just going off of what you just shared, like the intentionality with the language around, hey, we're not going to just talk about um, this is hard, but like, hey, this is a challenge, and how we frame those things, and like that embracing and accepting of it, I think is so valuable. Where I'd actually be interested is going back to your MVPs for a moment. what I gather from that is a lot of maybe clarity that that can provide for somebody. Clarity on not just who they are, but like you mentioned, who they want to be. Not only what do they want to achieve, but who they want to be in pursuit of that. Where did you learn that? And now what is the what maybe have you found to be most helpful in sharing that with others? Like what are some of the wins that they're finding by getting clear on their own MVPs?
So it's fun talking about some of the stuff right now too, because this week, now that the players have gone home, finals week's over, now it's our one-on-ones as a staff. So every month, I meet with every player, and like, you know, it's like, even though I see my wife each and every day, there's some like huge value of putting her on the counter. This is our time together, right? Uh, I could put it in there every day, and I think about my relationship with God and how that needs to be on the calendar every day too, right? Not just talked about, but like actually put on the calendar. Time with the big man, right? And so, as we're doing this with our players, we do this with our coaches too. And so I think of, um, right out the gate, a guy like Jess Lewis, who was a wrestler and a football player here at Oregon State, legend. I have a life-size cardboard cutout of him, as well, and Jess taught a class here on campus, and it was drugs and sports. And this is right after I lost my mom to an overdose. And in that class, one of the things he did was open up about his past, and I thought that takes a lot of courage to open up. And I also had so many things bubbling up inside of me that I'd experienced, um, at a young age, loss of loved ones and just hardships, um, where I just had a thing in class where he's like, I want everyone to go out. I want you to go to Linus Pauling Elementary here in town, and I want you to, um, share something with them. And I took that as an opportunity to then, after watching Jess do it, open up about my life. And I shared all of it, like third, fourth grade kids in an assembly. And I'm up there kind of like fighting tears and stuff and just sharing about some of these things I've gone through. And after I got done with it, it felt so good. Oh, I got lights kicking out on me real quick. Wake up. There it is. All right. It's good. Energy saving, right? We're being economically friendly. Um, and I think about walking out of there and just such a relief. There was so much, clutter and, I guess, scarring that, you leave the bowl in the china shop too long, it can make a lot of damage. And so I finally got it out. And so now we can start putting the right stuff in there. And, um, I think about that with a lot of our guys now too. What do we need to get out? And what are the stuff that we need to start filling it with? Because it's definitely in there. And so it's having the trust to communicate some of these things, right? And building stronger relationships that all ties together. And then I started getting like the letters from the kids and sharing what they were opening up about some of the stuff that they had going on. And I was like, man, so I felt so much, like selfishly, I felt so much relief and growth in myself through doing that and courage to go do that more. And then hearing back from those that were in attendance about some of the stuff they were going on and building relationships with them, I I want to do more of it. It gave me courage to go out and do more. And then I fast forward later on, um, with Andy McKay and the structure he had. Extremely intelligent, right? Hired me after I got done playing. Him and Jerry DePoto brought me on as a manager in the minor league organization, and so much growth there too. Trusting a first-time coach to go manage a club, and actually Coach Dorman, our pitching coach, was there with us in Clinton, Iowa, and Caesar Nicholas, first time coach as well, and then eventually Pete Woodworth, who's now the pitching coach for the Mariners. We're sitting there at one point after Dorman took the college job, looking around, going, "All right, we're all first year coaches. Anyone know what they're doing? I don't know. Let's just go at it with passion, enjoy the heck out of it, give it everything we got, and just be open to learning." But Andy gave us a lot of structure, and even on this, um, sheet I have right here in front of me that I have still used to this day, uh, to review with our coaching staff. And are we holding up our pillars as coaches? Same thing we talk about with the players. You're talking about skill. With the players, we talk about skill development. We talk about health, strength, and mobility. We talk about character, and we talk about academics. And then we switch over to goals, and we look at accountability partners, who's in our lives. And it's essentially the same thing, maybe different buckets that we're talking about with the coaches, but you know, knowledge, communication, accountability, and spreading our wings on those a little bit. I want our guys to dream. I want our coaches to dream. I want them to feel comfortable to come to me with big time ideas, whether they pull through or not. I need dreamers and I need accountability partners. I always say, like, if you're not yelling at me for something and coming to fight for something at least once a week or checking me somewhere, I know you're thinking it. I know the guys that hired. I know you're thinking it. And so if you don't come to me at least once a week, I know you're hiding it or you're talking to other people about it. Come hit me with it. Because if we're hiding these things, what's festering in there? Like, I don't want them to sit and get stuck and create frustration. So when they do come out, it can be a big issue. It comes out the wrong way. And so mull it over for a few days. As Andy said, it's better to be 3 days late than a day early. And think about it, process it, learn how to deliver it, bring it to the table, and let's talk about it. That's how we grow. And uh, the the idea is, I mean, again, I've been attending the ABCA convention since 2010. I think that was in Anaheim the first year I went, and I just enjoyed listening and learning to so many people. And I've been going ever since. But some of these things, that how I interact with the coaches, I have it in my phone, I have it written down. I always think, dream about it, write it down, talk about it with others, and then go act on it. And that's why when we have our meetings, I need my guys to come in with pieces of paper and writing it down, any ideas that come up. I need them to come in, and part of it's like, how can I help you perform better? What do you desire to do? We're trying to just open the line of communication, and these meetings aren't 30 minutes. They're not even an hour. Sometimes they go 2+, or sometimes there's a follow-up. Hey, I love where we're heading with this, but I don't want to cut it short. Let's touch base on this again, another day or two, so we can elaborate on some of these ideas. So it's the consistency of wanting to learn. And, even why coaching kids camps, when these young bucks are coming through here and wanting to learn baseball, it's great for us because we get to coach, we get to learn how they communicate, which is going to be the next group that's coming through. And we can still get a lot of ideas from them. Hey, what are some of the stuff that you guys talk about hitting with your coaches back home? And there could be big ideas sparked. How do you connect with them? Because when you have a room of, 30+ players and, 8, 10 coaches, everyone speaks a different language. You say one thing and it is perceived so many different ways. Um, when you say push, it might connect better to say drive or thrust or whatever. You have to be ready to speak multiple languages, and it's not just what comes out of your mouth, it's how you use your body language. What time of day are you using it? Sitting in my office and having a meeting could really hinder some guys depending on where they're at, whereas we might need to go have it on the field, or we might need to go have it up at the dining hall or something like that. And so it's just being aware. And I think each of the coaches that I've had along the way, or successful business owners, you name it, I've always looked at them. The people we play against, I videotape everything. I always go back. Some people like watching Netflix. I like watching practice film and studying the game. When I go to sporting events, I notice I'm not really watching the game all the time. I'm watching the sidelines or the bench. In baseball, we have a dugout. We can go step up the tunnel and relieve some frustration. Basketball, football, they're out there in the open the entirety of the time. There is no hiding. When you feel something and you let it out, everyone can see it. And so constantly watching body language, interaction. I enjoy having a lot of other coaches come to our practice and giving feedback or suiting up for one of our games. have a great relationship with a lot of the coaches here, and I really enjoyed it. I love talking about recruiting. I love talking about coaching. I love talking about involvement in community, parenting, faith, you name it. And I just think that that's part of the joy of waking up every day, not only at your alma mater and getting to live your dream, but there's so many resources around. So it's waking up with gratitude and being able to open your ears and your heart to listen to the wisdom that other people have.
There's so many really good threads in that. And so, one of which that I'll go back to for a moment just to highlight, and then I'll come back here in a second, is you're one of the few coaches that I've had conversations with that talked about prioritizing how you create time in your calendar for the things that are most important to you. And I think we inherently oftentimes think of that in the context of coaching and the professional side. But even just hearing you talk about, am I carving out time with my wife? Am I carving out time with my assistant coaches and things like that? That you can always, a coach can tell you what's important to them. And I can also say, hey, show me your calendar and I'm going to see what's important to you. Right. So I love that sentiment, and even just the opening up space for those conversations, even just beyond the office setting. The other side of it, where the thought that was coming up for me is one of the things that I've shared a lot is I think oftentimes leadership breakdowns fall under one of three buckets: a failure to define expectations and standards,
Mm-hmm.
a failure to manage expectations and standards, or a failure to model the expectations and standards. And in
Right.
particular, what's coming up for me is when I listen to you, that emphasis on modeling it for you and the staff. Hey, all these things that we're asking our players to do, then we also have to be reciprocating. And that extends in multiple avenues. So with that, earlier you talked about embracing challenges. What are some ways now as a leader that you're trying to approach embracing challenges, and maybe even, we ask players to go outside their comfort zone on a day-to-day basis. What are ways for you that you see that showing up in your own leadership?
Well, sometimes we can find ourselves getting stagnant if we're not writing it all down. Uh, Not too long ago, I already wrote out. I'm a visual guy too, and I have so many calendars around me, and not just the one on my phone. I don't want to spend too much time on that thing, but uh, you know, on my wall, I have calendars for the next several months. Uh, I like to plan. I already built the calendar out for next fall, right? And there are key points that I never want to miss. I recently we just did a high school coaches clinic where we open up our facilities and all of us coaches are around and we come out and we talk. Each of us coaches has to give a presentation. So I love it because we have to prepare, bring forth wisdom. We build connections and relationships. Um, Being a little vulnerable. Yeah, and it does require on a quiet time away from our family to go do this. So if you're going to take time away from family, you better make best use of your time, right? And so they're like things like that. I don't want to forget to do. I've had times where I've stepped back and go, oh my gosh, I have not been to church. I have not really prayed in 3 weeks. Like, what is that? How did this come about that we got so busy with everything else that we didn't? And so, in order to not forget those kind of things, you put things in your life like around you all the time that always remind you, right? For every mile of road, there's 2 miles of ditch. Um, and I really want to do my best to stay on the road that I want to travel. All right, type it in your GPS. You want to make sure you follow directions so you get there as quick as possible so you can go out and act. And so, just whether it's around my office, in my vehicle, at home, I try to set reminders. Like on my nightstand, my brother's dog tags are there. After he passed away, rarely do I wear them, but I wear them in moments that I feel like I need more courage, that I need to be fearless. And so it's a little reminder for me that All right, we got this. And just a huge mentor of mine was my younger brother, still is. And one of my favorite questions to ask guys, especially on our staff, who are the biggest mentors in your life? And I could tell a lot about people that have really solid things going on at home, and people that have like really strong mentors and stay in touch with them. Or, when you ask, hey, who are your mentors? And they can start rattling them off right now. It's like what's behind you, a whole bunch of books. Not a person, but people wrote those things. I enjoy books, and I've had a lot of recommendations, and I'm a little backlogged, and right now still working my way through the New Testament. Um, and so you're trying to find time to do all these things. I tell you what, I got a handful of guys on my staff. We have a brand new training room. It's got a sauna, hot tub, cold tub, and everybody. I got my strength coach getting in there at 5 a.m. and jumping in the cold tub, and he says, "It's ready for you. Hop on in." Coach Gibbs said, "Let's jump in the cold tub." I'm like, you know what? Stop. All right. I I feel like I do a lot of things in my life that are really good for me, and at some point, that's one thing I just it's not for me. Is it good for you? Yes, great. And and so you have to prioritize. I could go jump in there too, but that extra time it takes to get there, jump in, dry off, get dressed again. Uh, Priorities for me in the morning are making sure I get my workout in, right? Which only can be for a certain amount of time, because I want to get home and I want to be there for my kids before they go to school. I want to not necessarily make their lunch for them or nothing. I want to make sure they know how to do that themselves, or make their breakfast. Sometimes, I'll hop in and burn some pancakes. Great. Should be a simple thing, but apparently I still got some work to do there. Uh, but my wife takes our son to school. As she goes and gets her workout in afterwards, it's near where she drops him off. And I want to take our daughter to school each and every day. Leave the house at 7:50. We get there at 7:55. That provides I get 5 minutes in that car taking my daughter around the corner to school, where we can talk about a lot of different things. Sometimes we can just listen to a song that really fires her up. But I get that kiss on the cheek each and every morning, dropping her off. I want our coaches to feel that same thing. That's why I love living close to campus, so we can, if I want to go home at lunch, I can. Right? It's just as quick as me to do that. It is as it is to run up on Monroe and grab local boys or something else. Um, and so making sure, like when we picked out a home here, I wanted to be close because I wanted to be able to make smooth transitions. Now, there's also very valuable time on breathing a little bit in the ride home, right? And there's times I spend, and I learned this from a good friend of mine in high school. I'd see his mom come home from work, and she'd sit in the car for like, could be 5 minutes, could be 20 minutes. And I asked Vern one time, Mama Vern, that why are you always in your car? She goes, I'm trying to make sure that I'm processing the day so that when I get out of the car, I'm leaving work at work and I am ready to be a mom at home. Like, dang. And so I started to enact that a little bit more as well. When I get home, I'm sitting in my truck, and I had times where kids are running up to the window, Dad, 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 and I'm like, hey, I'll be right there. And I want to make sure I'm leaving any of the heavy stuff that's on my mind, because I don't want to bring that in my home. And I've done it. We've all done it. I want to minimize those things, and so it's creating these count. My goodness, sorry, like it's a good thing.
It's all right. It's just like a little reset mixed in
It
here.
is. Quick breath and back at it.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to set up these things in life that are preventing the drift from happening. Andy McKay talked about the drift a lot with us. It's a key checkpoint in our student athlete development handbook that we go over every fall, and you learn more. It's going to happen. The currents come and go. Sometimes they're heavier than others. When you go through COVID times, that's the current shifting on you. You go through transfer portals and NILs and rev shares and conferences breaking up, and so there's just the currents shifting, and you got to be ready, and like mentally and physically, and also have the right people around you to get the boat back on track where it needs to be. And again, feel like I'm extremely fortunate because I have enough of those people that call and check in on me. I tell you something really cool. Just this other day, we're out on Saturday. We're making wreaths and candles, and we're doing some Christmas stuff. I get a phone call, and it's our new football coach. And it's never happened to me before. And he's got enough going on right now, just getting the job going. But he calls me up and he goes, "Hey, how you doing today?" I'm doing great, man. Just out and about with the fam. He goes, "Hey, you got a couple minutes?" And I go, "Sure. What's up?" He goes, "I'd like to pray for us." And I said, "Yeah, of course." And he goes, "All right, I got it." So he hits a wonderful prayer about our relationship continuing to grow, the strength, you know, to endure the highs and lows, and for our families, because family and faith is extremely important to him. And then he finishes the prayer, says, "Amen," and then he goes, "All right, have a wonderful day." And I was like, "All right, all right." And we got off the phone, went back at it. But in that moment, like, and one thing that he and I had talked about is, breakfast, lunch, and dinner are important for our nutrition. And I'm the type that I like breakfast, lunch, and dinner and some snacks in between. And so I'm thinking about how important that is. And I think about the same thing with faith. I need breakfast, lunch, and dinner with time with my faith and also some snacks between, right? And when it comes to family, I need my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So family time, we sit around the table, we make sure that, you know, we're enjoying a meal together. It's not TV trays and everyone's off running the thing. Sometimes that happens because life gets crazy, but when we can, this is very important to us. And so I think it's just as you get older, someone had told me, uh, and I probably heard it online or something like that, or read it in a book, but the idea of your 20s being for experimentation and learning and growth, right? Your 30s are for editing, but still growth is maintained in that, editing out some of those things that are just the fat that you don't need, that are causing noise. And then your 40s, you begin mastery. Like, what am I really good at? Like narrowing the focus, finishing the funnel. But growth is something that happens in each of those phases. There's no doubt, and you can't stop growing. And that's physically, emotionally, socially, spiritually, you name it. Um, and so, again, the current's always going to shift. Do you have the right people in the boat helping you steer that thing? Someone looking at it from a different lens it's hard to see it when you're sitting in the foxhole, right? With all the bullets flying. Um, so it's just over time, just continuing, and I will continue to do so. Uh, Build this um, protective system to keep going forward. But I when you're unable to write it down, talk about it with others to hold you accountable, and act on it, that's a problem.
Mm. Similar to before, I feel like there's some really great threads there. You're one of the first, and I know you said Andy McKay obviously influenced this a lot. That notion of drift, I really like that. And that notion of like people don't just drift into like greatness or excellence or whatever term you want to kind of throw in. They're intentionally steering into that, and then there's people around them that kind of help along the way. So I like that sentiment. What I'd actually be interested, you've mentioned some of your mentors, some of the people, that list of folks that have shaped you. So now as you really think about coaching, and we could use kind of this classic like, good versus great distinction. What do you feel like are the separators between good and great coaching now, from things that you've taken from others and or things that you've just experienced and observed in your own development?
Uh, I said this last week, and it's the first time I said it, but I've been really kind of marinating on it a bit, and it was like coaching is such an art, and every artist um, paints a different way. They have interests that maybe it looks a little chaotic to one, but makes sense to another. And I think even watching my daughter play hoop, or I'm taking martial arts class right now. I'm taking Kempo karate with my son. I wanted to get him to do it, and the only way I could do it is if I jump back in it too. So, we're preparing for another belt testing here coming up. So we got a busy week ahead of us to make sure that we are prepared for this test. But it's been a way that he and I really connect. And, you know, uh, our coaches in that arena have been great because they're talking about life skills. They're giving us life examples on how to use this stuff, but showing so much patience. I think that's where my gratitude has been. Thank you for expressing so much patience with the youth that's in here. Also for an older guy who's trying to learn as well. I catch myself in those moments too, getting so internal. The stuff we tell players to do, like, man, it's just like he's thinking so much about it instead of acting. And I told that to our, Mr. D, our sensei, the other day. I was like, man, I feel like I'm almost like paralyzed sometimes. You're telling me to do this, and then I'm just working through it really slow. Where he goes, practice, put in the time, and then it becomes natural, and then the best version of yourself is coming out. So, in every sense, it's almost like don't be afraid to play catch. Don't be afraid to take ground balls. Don't be afraid to run the bases and dive back in. Don't be afraid to jump off the high dive. If you're asking others to do it, remember how difficult it is. And uh, I say that, there's so many things that I think for basically everything, if you put in the time, right, and you study it, you continue to learn, you continue to put forth great effort into these things, uh, you can get better, right? The idea, the asymptote, where you're never going to achieve absolute perfection, but you're trying to near that thing as close as possible. I say that for all things except for, or the biblical verses, draw near to God and God will draw near to you. Think about taking out, like, or implementing anything else into draw near to joy, and joy will draw near to you. Draw near to teaching, and teaching will draw near to, you know relationships with your kids, and they will draw near to you. The one exception I do think is draw near to golf, because golf, no matter what, is never. I've tried, and it's just still not kind to me at all. So I think most all things are in that realm. And so I don't know. It's great coaching. It's an art. Every coach is going to do it differently. Everyone's going to connect. I think just being able to express this art form in different ways, but always having some high quality standards, right? And so what Andy McKay again had mentioned to us before, those pillars of teaching, knowledge, communication, and accountability. You need to have the knowledge, otherwise they're going to go somewhere else, right? And so you have to continue to learn in that realm. You need to be able to communicate, because if you can't communicate effectively, if you're just screaming at people all the time, it doesn't connect with everyone. Some people, yes. Other people, no. And so it's, do I need to communicate with this person one on one? Do I need to do it in this arena? Do I need to do it now, or should it wait a few more days until it's ready? There was a story I've shared where I remember being in Double A managing, and we were sitting around a staff meeting after one of the games, and the conversation was um, celebrating after a win. How, like, do we need to? Like, we won a handful of games, and you see it, like, it's not really exciting in there, man. Like, you gotta enjoy doing this. So the one of the coaches spoke up and said, do we need to go out and get uh, a disco ball and like a bigger speaker, and a fog machine, strobe light, throwing these ideas out. I tell you what, I love that. I agree, we need to celebrate a little bit more, especially for the length of this season, and at different points. August, that was always a time where we're going to bust out the slip and slide on the field, for diving practice. We're going to do things, bring in a magician, I don't know, have a hockey shootout in the clubhouse, because the dog days of August, you kind of got to trick them a little bit, get your mind off of it. And right when we're having that conversation, I said, why don't we just wait a little bit? Right? Like, we don't want to take that from them? What if they come to us with the idea? So let's keep that simmering. Let's be ready for it. I kid you not. 5 minutes later, a guy knocks on the door. Hey, yeah, come on in. Hey guys, I was just thinking, maybe we can spice it up a little bit here after winter. Are you cool if we go out and get a strobe light, maybe a disco ball, the fog machine, and blah, blah. And I'm like, saying all the exact same stuff we're talking about. I'm like, yes. And so it's just giving the guys a chance to make that change and make it their own rather than us going and doing it. So I was like, I go, you know what? That's a great idea. We're all sitting there kind of, wow. I tell you what, go out and get those things. Bring me the receipt. We'll reimburse you for it, but let's have some fun. And so, timing of when it's ready. How many times have there been artists like where right now you put that music out or that piece and people aren't ready for it, and it's not going to be really brought in and turned on every time they get in the car. But you wait a little bit, you find the right timing for these things, and they hit and they stick and they go. You know, and so I think there's so much growth and being able to see it and take feedback. The book, The Four Agreements, right? Never take things personal. Like that was one of the four agreements, and I absolutely loved it because instead of overanalyzing or getting upset when things came away, well, why is this person saying it? Is there the ill will behind it, or is it someone's actual feeling? Maybe some stuff needs to be explained a little bit more in depth. And so what I've learned is like really communicating and seeing it from a different lens um, was big. But you have to have balance because sometimes you'll get caught up on like, hey, this is the new trend. We're all going to go get in the cold tub. Great. I love the cold tub. Ice bath. Yeah, sounds fun. But if I bring that in to my day, what am I cutting out to get there? And if you feel like you're already running at a very efficient piece, like while that is very beneficial, I'm going to have to carve out another 15, 20 minutes of something else I was doing. And does that mean I have to spend 15, 20 minutes less of my time at home or my staff meetings or prep for this week, month, year, or what have you, or fundraising or recruiting or whatever it is? It's finding the right balance for what you're trying to accomplish. But I'm still trying to edit. I don't want to leave that 30s feeling of editing. What am I doing? Who am I surrounding myself with? And the bigger picture. And as what we've seen here, when I got this job, I had a big vision of endowing all the coaching positions, of building a, a hitting facility, a training facility in center field with a weight room, and then the training room, and you name it, like seating capacity. These are all things that were drawn up. The house that we're living in that I got in 2019, I said it someday I'm going to live in this house. It was in 2007. And I told the guy who owned the house, I go, someday I'm going to come back here. I'm going to coach at Oregon State and I'm going to buy that house. And I kid you not, I got the job and I went over to his house. I want to buy your house now. I go, you got to be kidding me. I go, no, man, like it's the vision of these things. And if you can't see it, I always knew I wanted to have a son named Mac someday. We have a son named Mac. I always knew that, um, you know, I wanted to be coaching at Oregon State. I always knew I wanted to get a degree, be the first person in my family with a college degree. Like these are all things you could dream on, but I talked about them all the time. You know, take a picture in front of that house, knowing that someday I'm gonna be there. And so it's just I think that's a valuable tool is to take your picture in front of that vehicle that you want, or sitting in the office of the job that you want someday and posting that so you have to see it and remind you to push forward to get it. No different than when I meet with our student managers or our undergrad. Like, imagine you were making $1 million to do the job you're doing right now. That's what your work should look like. Not that you're getting paid X amount or whatever. Show me that you can be completely passionate about something, whether it's for a year or 4 years. That's why I love college. Like it's 4 years, high school, 4 years. Devote yourself to accomplishing this goal. I'm not necessarily concerned about which college that you're in, whether it's business, engineering, or psychology, or you're studying kinesiology, whatever it is. Can you commit to something and accomplish it? And that, I think, is going to teach you a lot of valuable skills in itself. And the network that you build while attending class, having meetings with your academic supervisor, and being able to manage sport with it, or and not or community service is a must. Like all these things that you should be putting on your plate, um, that are great for you. Like, do you know how many hours is 8 hours really what you got in a day? Have you ever tried to work 12? Have you ever tried to work 14? I asked a very close family friend to invest in my company, that we started, around 2010. And I asked him to make, an investment in the company, and he goes, "How many hours you work in a day?" And I remember telling him, 12 to 14 is my plan. He goes, "I don't think I can invest. You're not putting forth enough effort." He goes, "See if when you're putting forth 18 hours a day." I'm like, 18 hours. He goes, "I'm telling you, most businesses fail right within the first year, within the first 3 years. See what you're capable of doing and sustaining." And so I had to go that route of putting in, 17, 18-hour days, 6, 7 days a week, and understanding, okay, that maybe we need to like draw it back a little bit because we're missing a lot of things. So how hard do you know you can go until you've gone there? And my wrestling coach in high school, guy coached for 30 years at Lake Stevens High School, won 12 state titles. He was a master at helping us break down the walls that were in front of us. You thought this was your limit? No. And you thought the next wall beyond that was your limit? No. You have so much more to give. And I always appreciated that. So when I think of what people perceive as hardship, I'm so grateful now. I looked at it as such a great opportunity to learn and overcome. Each of the 17 surgeries that I've had, some small, some bigger, shoulders, knees, you name it. I feel like it's a song: head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Man, I've done most all of them. I've learned so much about having empathy for those who have gone through it, and how to fill your bucket rather than what I can't do. It's on our injury reports. You always have the limitations or whatever. I want another section on there that says, what can you do? Can you sit on a bucket and provide encouragement? Can you learn about analytics? What is it? If you don't have a left arm, can you use the right? If you don't have a left leg or left knee that's functioning at a high level right now, what can you be doing with your upper extremities and your brain to get you in position, to get ready to go compete or find another field that you can really excel at? So it's like, for every big wave that comes through, there's more coming. You'd be silly to think that they're not constant. And so you just navigate the space and set yourself up so that your boat stays upright.
There's this like beautiful perspective that I hear you describe kind of now that you bring not only to just leadership and coaching, but life. And that's again been shaped by your personal experiences, so many, a long list of people that have shaped that, and also just how you're continuing, I think, to grow and challenge yourself. I know I've pushed you over. I want to ask maybe one quick last question at the shot clock if I can.
Yeah.
This is a question that I do like to pose to everybody at the end of these conversations. Mitch, what's something that you're proud of that maybe you don't always get an excuse to talk about?
It's and I tried to simplify a lot of what I have going on so that I can like uplift a lot of those other things. My wife, my children, first and foremost, are God. Like, in my mind, I can't talk about those buckets enough. Right? Part of what we're here to do is to go out and be disciples. And that I I call myself a Christian. I call myself a man of faith, but I am so far away. Just a couple weeks ago, I spoke at a really close friend. Every week they have a Bible study, And I'm going in there and I'm like, I know I'm here. And I'm going in to talk to a whole bunch of people who are so much further down that road than I am. And I think of that as such a great opportunity because now I have to push myself. So if you're at this level and you're coaching, I always see there's this group up here, there's this group we're at, and this group below us. And I want to teach at each of those realms because I have to really prepare. I have to really learn to connect. I have to hold people accountable. And there's so much learning that goes up and down that chain. And so I here's the deal. I don't, there's only one person's name that's going to be remembered forever. And I have comfort in that. And it actually motivates me more than ever. And we have such a short time on this earth. And you always hear about regrets that people have. But the reality is, like, it doesn't matter if the statue is built for you, if you win uh, so many championships or help guys get on to the big leagues. I actually have on my whiteboard right here to my left a picture of a tree. Now, I drew it. It's not the best. I'm like not the best artist in the world, but imagine this like this tree, and you always see the branches coming out of, you know, you see it for Saban or all these other great coaches, all the people that they've worked with. I think a lot about a different part of the tree, the what holds the tree up, what also collects nutrients, the root system of this tree. That maybe they're not a direct branch. I mean, I love my coaching staff. I would love to keep each and every one of us together for the next 20 years, right? That we do this together. We know each other well. We push each other extremely hard. Our families are tight. And so I think about the root system, like that holds this whole place together are those that are around us, are like the foundation piece that allows us to go out and do what we do. And if we can go out and help change someone else's life for the better or continue to set, and we've all made mistakes and we will continue to do so, that we are all sinners, like that is a part of it. But handling it the right way, I think about all those other little things that maybe not everyone needs to see. It's when you give, not everyone needs to know that you give. You know, no one really does. I don't mind showing that because hopefully it leads by example for other people to do it. The reason my wife and I are philanthropists and give to our church, our community, our friends and family is because we were shown how to do that by other people and given the story, and so we have to continue to share that story. Day to day, when I wake up, I unplug, my phone from the charger, and I see the photos that are there, and I see the dog tags that are on that nightstand. It motivates me. It's step one of the day to get motivated and go and do the right thing and be fearless like my brother was. And again, it's not always about necessarily the leaves and the branches are extremely important, yes. But what holds that thing up and continues on is the root system of that tree. And so it's not needing recognition, and it's not um, wanting the attaboy that can come with it from time to time. I want I seek the gratitude of my God. I seek the gratitude of my wife and my children, right? And that is the foundation of these things. And if I'm staying on that path, I'm in a good place. And if I'm veering from that, I need help. And so, like, I can't give enough credit to the guys that I'm around each and every day. I can't thank those people that call and check in. This morning, I actually had a coffee with our team chaplain. He came in and he's very good about being consistent. Hey, would love to grab a coffee, and sometimes I just don't, I'm not able to make the time for it, but I love the persistence of those things, of great things that are knocking at the door. It's my wife and I had talked about, adopting. We had always, like, since we got married, it was like, all right, we're going to let's try to get it. Let's try. Who knows what's going to happen, right? We had a boy, we had a girl, and we always talked about a third. You know, I kept talking, is it right time to adopt? I really want to spend something that's been on my heart for a long time. what do you got for us? Do we do it now? Are we waiting? Are we doing it at all? And I think I eventually got flicked on the forehead and goes, hey, you got 37 guys in the clubhouse, right? Those are your kids. Those are the ones you love and pour into. So it kind of became clear, no, we're not at this time adopting another child. We have, then that's how we treat our players here. We love them. We treat them as if they're our own. Their parents are expecting us to come mentor them to become men. And so uh, it's kind of this same piece, for us is the question was answered. He's been answering it for a long time. I was just too thick-headed to really listen and make that become like, oh, thank you for that one. And now it's been even guided even more clear to treat these guys with love, respect, and honor our community, our athletic department, our clubhouse, our country, to do the right thing. Because how I perceive it is we're creating superheroes. That is our job, and we have to set the standard by how we walk, talk, and act on a day-to-day basis, and hold them to those standards as well to continue to do it. Because when they put on that uniform, whether they do or not, around the community, when they put that thing on, to see the look in kids' eyes when they get a baseball signed, when you watch Travis Bazzana and Garrett Forrester and all these guys signing autographs all the way down the line and interacting with them. Why did we want to become professional athletes? Because I got to watch Dan Wilson and Jay Buhner and Edgar Martinez and Tino Martinez and Randy Johnson, all these guys playing. I was like, yeah, I want to be like that guy. And how they carried themselves taught us a lot how to carry ourselves down the future. And so I always want others to set a great example of how we want the next generation to be. And if we omit ourselves from telling them the truth or holding them accountable, which is always the hardest one, right? Knowledge, communication, and accountability. That's kind of the divider right there. Is people have a hard time holding people accountable and telling them that's not okay and we need to do this and do not veer away. I don't want to hurt their feelings. Come on, be truthful. Adults have to adult, right? You need to stand up for what's right. And so it's just, there's so many. I apologize for being long-winded. That's apparently a lot of people know that about me, but I'm just extremely, passionate about these things, and I love to learn more. And a lot of times from having these conversations, I'm, bringing back some wisdom that others have taught me. Everything that I know and do is what I've learned from other people, and tried to create what I believe my own art form of doing this is. And watching my daughter play hoops, I see their coach has a different art form. I love it, respect it. I think he's doing a great job. Our martial arts teachers, our other coaches on campus or around the country. I just think it's a beautiful thing that never stops evolving.
There's so much the word that's coming up is like richness, I think, and depth and a lot of what you've shared. And I think, earlier on in the conversation, you shared your MVPs and the again clarity that provided for you. So I think it's kind of cool to come back to that here at the end. There's so much, I think, clarity in how you've described those things that are important to you, how you intentionally carve time for them, how you protect that, and so on. And the very last thing I'll say, and then I'll let you go, is one of the analogies that I've used a lot with coaches at different levels is like, I think we all live in response to, like, there's two scoreboards in life. There's society's scoreboard,
Mm.
which is things like fame, money, um, championships, trophies, and you name it, all the external stuff, the validation, the applause, the social media following. And then there's your personal scoreboard. And I don't get to tell Mitch what his scoreboard reads, and he doesn't get to tell me what mine reads. But I think what's really clear and how I hear you describe is like the clarity that you've gained over time around what's most important on your own personal one, the faith, the family, and how that now is interwoven in all that you do, and now how you're helping others do that too. I think that's a really kind of beautiful way to encapsulate, I think, everything that you've shared today and the depth again, richness of it. So I'm just grateful that again you took some time in a schedule. I know there's again no such thing as the off season, especially as I know when the calendar turns. College baseball season is well underway, and anyway, I'm appreciative of you not only sharing but also it's funny you mentioned the as a kid people you grew up watching. Like I remember watching those Oregon State teams growing up in Oregon. I remember being at those baseball camps. Growing up, we probably had some overlap there. So anyway, cool full circle moment for me. So I'm super appreciative of your time and presence here.
Well, thank you for having me again, and thank you for bringing up the scoreboard as well, because that is something that was taught to me, and I use that with our guys. That's one of the many topics we talk about in the fall, and to be able to not just talk about, don't just talk about them once. If it's important, it has to be consistent, right? Our pillars: selfless process, do the right thing, fun. It's something that we talk about all the time. And fun fact, we were actually sitting down with some guys, and we called one of our former players, Cooper Jerpy, and said, and this has been a couple of years since he's been here. Coop, give us the four pillars, and boom, he rattles them all off, and we're like, man, it's crazy how like I'm happy. It made me happy that we're being consistent with our messaging, and that guys still remember those things, even years down the road, and how they apply to anything and everything that you do. So thank you for having me on, and I'll pray that you get to continue to do this and continue to share little wisdom nuggets from a handful of great people across the country.
Yeah, yeah, honored to have you join and be part of that. So thanks again, Mitch.
Thanks, brother.